Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really excited. It's always a pleasure to be part of the community. And the topic today is very close to my heart, and it's around kind of what IGEL and Lenovo are doing together. So I am joined on the call with Spencer White as well. Um, Spencer is part of the Lenovo organization and works for the cloud software team, and kind of focuses and helps with the Lenovo IGEL integration. So here to answer any questions that you might have about best practices, how we work together, and kind of just the general go-to-market stuff. Um, the Today's agenda, we're going to go quick introductions. I suppose we've done. I suppose we can take that off right away. And then really delve into kind of like the a bit of an overview of like the state of end user computing right now, very briefly, because that kind of catapults in terms of why Lenovo and IGEL have having this close alignment. We'll delve into different device types, and then kind of go to market, how we hit the ground running with this partnership, and then ask any questions. So from that point on, let's delve right in. So Lenovo and IGEL have obviously been a part of the the IGEL ready ecosystem for a while, but it's only the last 18, 24 months really where we've kind of intertwined our organizations a little bit more aggressively, I would say. And the goal here is to provide a hardware software collaboration that just does a few things extremely well. One, it is just providing simplicity. And that's not just for, simplicity of management. It's not just about kind of the ease of management across, 1,000 devices across the globe at scale, but it's also providing something that's very simple to use, which is incredibly important because there is, I think we can all agree, a significant shift going on with end user computing. There's a lot of changes, and the users don't necessarily understand or care really. They just need to be able to turn on a machine and connect to whatever application they need to do their job in. I like the term clicks cause confusion. So typically, the easiest way for users to connect to their productivity applications, the better. So removing any of these kind of like Windows double hops or kind of confusing kind of links to links just to connect to kind of what they need to do, especially when we're looking at like onboarding new users as well. So simplicity, huge focus. Equally important, if not more, it's about providing a secure way to access those applications as well. So making sure that we have a secure platform for now and next. As I said before, there's a lot of change going on right now. There's a lot of organizations looking to see the best way to deliver applications to their users. So being able to provide a standard, simple, secure way to connect to what they have now, and then whatever they need to do around the corner. They might change if it's mergers, acquisitions, or maybe you're looking at different kind of, you're looking at Microsoft's kind of AVD approach, or kind of moving towards like from VMware to Citrix or whatever it is, or just utilizing just kind of a secure browser. It does not matter. Whatever you choose to use moving forwards, we've got your back. Now, if we're taking a look at kind of what the analysts are saying, they're all saying from Forrester to Gartner that it's cloud, cloud, cloud. Everything's going cloud. SaaS development is through the roof, etc. But many of our customers from the Lenovo side of things as well, we're kind of seeing they've kind of seen past the cloud really, and bringing everything back down to earth really, and kind of relying on this kind of more of a hybrid approach. So yes, I think it can be safely said that organizations, especially in the enterprise, are looking to move much of the workload off the endpoint as possible. But it's more about finding the right tools for the right job and understanding kind of what cloud should be able to be utilized for the benefit of the overall kind of workspace, rather than just shoving everything in the cloud. because we've seen a lot of organizations get a little bit of a kind of a sticker shock, really, that those kind of cloud costs can escalate fairly aggressively. So one of the key benefits of our partnership is Lenovo's data center business as well. So being able to have this kind of end-to-end from the desktop to the cloud, kind of desktop to the data center to the cloud, as well as a really great joint kind of solution here. So this collaboration is kind of key. We're also seeing one of the reasons why people are looking to kind of remove some of the workloads off the endpoint itself is because, well, the hybrid and remote work situation isn't exactly a fleeting thing. It's here to stay. So organizations are taking a step back and understanding their long-term digital workspace strategy and how best to do that, really. And you've got obviously a lot of things to consider here around ease of use, around the manageability side of things, and of course the security, because if you've got all of your workspace users dispersed across the globe, accessing from their living room, you've got to kind of make sure that kind of you extend your protection element around those users. And I think we're also seeing a market shift towards this hybrid cloud situation. You're looking at like the VDI providers, for instance, Citrix have always been, the poster childs for cloud first, but even they are talking about the fact that, it's all about hybrid cloud and having a management plane across, so you can seamlessly manage everything. So this is definitely what we're seeing in the market compared to kind of what we're hearing the analysts saying. And you can even hear that from Microsoft as well. They've kind of gone all in on the desktop as a service, VDI, really just delivering Windows from the cloud, I think is probably the best way to do it. I think from Q4, their earnings report was basically saying that the AVD in Windows 365 surpassed $1 billion in revenue, which is a significant feat considering the age of these technologies. It's really impressive. But what really caught my eye was from the last quarter earnings report, which was basically their cloud delivered Windows increasing more than 50% year over year, which strikes up a real interesting point. Like if you're managing it centrally, delivering Windows, why also manage it on the endpoint? Now, the traditional Windows endpoint is kind of Lenovo's, like, I suppose, bread and butter, really. I mean, they're the largest device manufacturer in the world, and they make an incredible device, a credible kind of Windows endpoint that can do a lot of things. It's incredibly powerful. And the traditional Windows endpoint, if you think of it as like a bubble, right, and everything's there, it's great. It's comfortable in the bubble sometimes. I mean, you've got everything local. You've got your local applications, you've got your local data, you've got your local OS on there, you've got your resources that's local. So it can do a lot of different things, which is wonderful. But for an enterprise use case, when you're trying to manage thousands of these, or even hundreds of these things, centrally, it can cause a bit of heartache because there's a number of things that you can't necessarily do in the bubble because, well, first of all, the bubble can be, what's the word I'm looking for? The bubble can be vulnerable to sharp edges, let's just say. If we're taking a look at critical vulnerabilities, for instance, like Windows, I think had hundreds, well, they had 350 north critical vulnerabilities that needed to be patched last year. And when you have a dispersed user base, having to kind of navigate and slow down to make sure that everyone's connected to the right VPN, etc., can be a little bit of a heartache. So the modern workspace requirements at scale often don't kind of blend together with the kind of the traditional Windows endpoint. You kind of need to make sure that you have a method to support a growing number of use cases that are looking to just connect to their workloads centrally. So as these applications and as these kind of digital workspaces kind of expand, and when I say expand, I mean, I'm not talking about like just like the variety of application delivery methods. I'm talking about the growing number of users that are accessing the cloud now to access their applications. We're seeing a wider array of personas accessing the cloud now, not just the task-based workers, but we're seeing knowledge-based workers, we're seeing roaming workers, we're seeing all of these different users. We're seeing different types of organizations as well, not just kind of the enterprise. we're seeing organizations that maybe didn't necessarily have the capital needed to connect to the cloud, capital needed to set up their own data center, but kind of desktop as a service kind of really kind of was able to launch them into this kind of cloud connected world. So we're seeing that growth. We're also seeing a whole new group of users as well. I would probably say kind of frontline workers, if you will, that are only needing a browser to access their whole ecosystem as well. So, if it's Chromium or if it's like Island, for instance, the browser is not only the most important application, it's the only application a growing number of users are utilizing. So it's the app strategy is evolving in terms of how people can access their productivity apps. If it's based on protocol, or if it's based on function, being able to support these users, secure these users, you can't rely on an endpoint strategy from the past. Because if they're using the cloud, you need to make sure the endpoint is secure, like by design. I'm not talking about like, hey, I need another 10 agents to try and plug any security vulnerabilities. I'm talking about a kind of a different approach, a more proactive approach to securing those endpoints. And this is kind of where Lenovo and IGEL have this joint solution moving forwards. And often you don't need a 60 gigabyte operating system, which is quite a bit of bloatware in there, to do a lot of this, connecting to the right application. So reducing that attack footprint, and also reducing the manageability, the management headaches associated with that as well, especially if you're looking to do patching, if you're looking to update agents when people are dispersed across the globe. It can be incredibly challenging. So simplifying everything in terms of reducing that footprint down, securing it as simply as possible, so it can be applied out. Scalability and low maintenance, obviously critical. It's incredibly challenging when you've got full-time employees only able to manage like 300 to 500 endpoints as they're getting rolled out. That can be fairly challenging at scale, especially when there's only limited amount of keyboard time. When everything has to be actually supported remotely now, it kind of adds an additional level of complexity to it. And obviously, great user experience is something that is obviously required. And Windows does this great. I mean, the traditional Windows endpoint is great, unless, when there's nothing worse, I suppose, when trying to jump on a Zoom call with your boss and then your device decides that now is the right time for a 30-minute update. But anyway, that's I'm not bitter from historical use cases. So it's time to think outside the bubble, really. And this is kind of my long-winded way of saying that the version of the traditional Windows endpoint to match the new requirements for digital workspace and kind of new application strategies, you need a modern workspace strategy that incorporates a number of key elements, really. First of all, this secure by design element. I mean, I can't stress enough, this can't just be a buzzword. It has to be just a baseline. This has to be a fundamental element within any endpoint strategy for users connecting to the cloud to do all of their work. As it's built for the cloud, security has to be at its core. Okay, it has to be an element within the foundation of a solution. So a preventative security model. Okay, which leverages the zero trust architecture to its fullest, making sure, or never trust, always verify every component from the device to the user across the board. We need to make sure that everything works together for the user experience, not just about providing the best user experience based on like Teams integrations and protocol support, etc., but also peripherals and making sure everything works together. Again, simplicity for the user is key. Management is for scale as well as low maintenance. And again, reducing that footprint from 60 gigs to a gig is hugely important for an organization. But being able to utilize the power of those Lenovo devices is, again, something which we've worked really, really hard on in terms of the hardware-software collaboration to make sure that it's not just utilizing all the resources in the cloud, but we're actually utilizing the beast of the machine down below as well. Best of both worlds. You can't sacrifice the user experience for the quest of security. again, it's all about collaboration. So, and of course, sustainability. It's about making sure that things are built to last. And I think that's the key thing here, really, because it's built to last, which means that it can grow and expand to the different types of workloads that you as an organization are trying to consume, right? So you might be just utilizing Citrix published applications perhaps for a number of users, but I promise that type of use case is growing, and there's different ways to consume those applications. So we need to be able to support everything. Okay, support all the relevant protocols, support all the relevant delivery mechanisms for now and next. Okay, moving forwards, and support the growing number of workloads too. So I kind of wanted to move swiftly on here and talk a little bit about kind of how we actually work together in these core elements. Okay, so on the security side of things, we're talking about like leveraging Lenovo's kind of key go-to-market kind of initiatives, especially with the BIOS updates and the BIOS recovery that they can do remotely, and incorporating their zero trust supply chain. Okay, this collaboration of hardware and software is not just again a buzzword. Um, so making sure that when a device gets to you, it is it's never been tampered with, that being able to couple with the chain of trust, which takes that secure BIOS to the application and has a secure verification every single step to make sure that nothing has been tampered with. And guess what? If it has been, then it can just reboot, because the read-only operating system just makes sure that you can get to a known good straight state in minutes instead of months. There's nothing with like phishing attacks is what 70%, 75% of all breaches last year. Um, and users are getting easier. The bad actors are utilizing more and more Gen AI tools to replicate the writing communication styles of your boss, you even, or your colleagues. So that phishing kind of attack to try and deliver malware to end users is only going to become more and more problematic. So regardless of how sophisticated an attack is, or regardless of how sophisticated a piece of malware is, the fact that it can be taken out by a simple reboot is probably the best way to go. That proactive, preventative security is key here. So the read-only operating system without a file system and a kind of a no local data is a significant advantage in our constant battle against security threats. Modular design, again, reduce that attack footprint as much as you possibly can. We don't need a 60 gigabyte attack vector. We want to reduce it down and only utilize what is needed for those individuals to do their job, which incidentally makes it a lot easier to manage as well. And then that final layer, really, from the OS to the application, is where we can really shine as well, and where our IGEL ready ecosystem and our community really takes shape and really shines, because you've got, SSO integration from Okta to Entra. We've got third-party ISV integrations as well to really take advantage of even contextual aware policies. And for the likes of healthcare, for instance, we can utilize, Improvata to access a whole heap of different workflows that were never even possible before, like healthcare and clinicians being able to access Windows 365 or AVD as simply as a kind of a Citrix workflow. It's really compelling, really exciting, and this is kind of the journey really about working together. And it's not just about the security; it's about the other key elements as well. Like sustainability is a subject really close to my heart, and Lenovo is a carbon neutral organization, and they build things to last. Like for instance, like it's much easier to glue everything down inside of a box. It's much easier just to glue it down, snap it shut, and just send it out. But they put painstaking effort into make sure that it's repairable, which means that not only is the device efficient, but it's built to last, which couples really nicely with the
Thank you.
lifestyle extension.
Get off
Hello,
early.
question.
522, 520.
No, that was not a question. That was just a time. Perfect. That was I'll take it. Actually, I'll pause right now. I'll take that and ask if anyone does have any questions so far.
Michael, there was a question. I guess it was a question coming from Robert in the Q&A. If you'd like
Ooh,
to take it over, I can read it. So does Lenovo have a spot on their website that has all of the IGEL ready devices? I was unable to find one.
good question. There is a spot on the Lenovo website which is dedicated to iGel. In terms of the IGEL ready devices, though, that there isn't. You would have to go to the Lenovo, sorry, the IGEL one, basically, which gives you all of the certified devices. And actually, we have a slide at the end, which goes through those as well. And specifically the ones with the new OEM workflow too, which are kind of preloaded and ready to go, preloaded, pre-licensed, and ready to go. But I'm taking some of Spencer's thunder here. Um, I will, and unless we've got another question, I will crack on.
Please go ahead.
But the sustainability side is key. It's just being able to reduce that e-waste, which is plaguing the planet. So being able to kind of collaborate together is just a joy. Because together we can provide easier, more secure way for people to roll out remote working for everyone, hybrid working. But also, have a device that can support an operating system that can support again longer life of devices is something we all need. Click. Based on experience as well. I mean, these I mentioned before. These devices can be like awesome just in terms of what Lenovo is doing to extend battery life. Their AI PC generation is really compelling as well to kind of put those TOPS workloads locally. The variety of devices, so from your clamshell laptops for mobile workers to your all-in-ones to your tiny ones, there's a device for every type of use case that is capable of supporting the most arduous workloads. And that's the key thing here as well. This kind of the collaboration, which I've been speaking about, is being able to do things like, Teams offloading. I mean, Microsoft has done a phenomenal job of kind of reducing the resource burden of that particular application, but being able to offload kind of resources down to the device itself, utilizing IGEL, regardless of kind of protocol, is a huge benefit for the overall user experience. So being able to do it for using AVD in Windows 365 as for instance, being able to just have that resource elasticity where you can utilize the resources centrally where appropriate, but offload it to the device as well where it makes most sense. So for now and next is just making sure that we can handle all those kind of key workloads. Having audio video redirection instead of just relying again on hairpinning back up to the server, which cannot be which isn't ideal, but being able to communicate directly to the peer host just to again improve the overall user experience. Integrating with all of the elements out the box with the Lenovo as well to take advantage of all their speakers, all their webcams, all those kind of elements, and a wider peripheral support as well. So it's not just about making sure the headphones work, but it's about making sure the buttons as well work. So it's the user experience is a key part because often that balancing act between security and user experience often gets kind of a raw deal. And historically, when we're talking about kind of cloud connected workloads, again, user experience has always been kind of a victim there as well. We worked really hard with our delivery providers and working really hard with the likes of Lenovo to make sure that the user's experiences isn't forgotten. In fact, it's thrived. We've got great user experience integrations with likes of ControlUp or Lakeside, for instance, where you can basically take a look and see where there's room for improvement, of course, and of course our new kind of services like onboarding, where you can basically out the box into your workloads, into your productivity applications in under 3 minutes. Is again all elements, all hard work focused on making sure that it's simple, but as it's simple, but also a great user experience. And finally, of course, on the management side of things, I mean, yeah, who doesn't love having multiple agents to support and push out and pay for? So being able to do all this almost like an agentless OS significantly reduces the overall cost, by the way, the total cost of ownership on this, but also on the management side of things. I mean, now we're talking about, you know, one full-time employee looking to manage, you know, tens of thousands of users in some cases, if that's kind of applicable to your kind of endpoint farm. So we've got simplified management, patch management. Just makes it so much easier for us to scale and push out to everyone. So the goal here really, and to kind of wrap this up, is to, I suppose, wrap up the endpoint as well in terms of a brand new bundled Lenovo hardware with IGEL on it, or Lenovo can also kind of resell the IGEL OS on kind of existing some legacy hardware perhaps, but the idea is having the ability to wrap it all in an area that is secure, it's agile, it's easy to work with, it's scalable, easy to manage, etc. for the IGEL UMS. So if you're connecting to VMware on-prem or VMware in the cloud, or if you're just connecting to a SaaS-based application, you're golden. It is just these four things again. It's about being simple to use. It's about being simple to manage. It's about having security as a fundamental component of the architecture, and just making sure that it's built to last. So to answer Robert's question about the types of devices, I'm going to pass it over to Spencer, who's going to talk a little bit about kind of the choices between these, and obviously the chance to expand past these when required.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for joining the call. Yeah, I did want to just kind of walk through some devices. I think too, as we kind of talk through these, just understanding that there's a caveat, right? That these aren't necessarily all the devices that we have certified with IGEL today, but what you'll find from Lenovo is these will be the primary devices that we promote, internally to both our customers and partners. We are seeing that probably about 95-ish% of the use case is coming from these handful of the devices that you see here today. When it comes to desktop, Neo 50Q that you see there right in the middle, that's going to be a dual monitor setup. Most of these are going to come down to peripheral support. So with something like the Neo 50Q, it's going to be a dual monitor setup at max. Can take up to i3, but will also take a Celeron chipset. So if you have lower use cases where you're not offloading Teams or Zoom or anything unified collaboration wise, that would probably be the best device for you. And then the M70, M75Q, those are a little bit heavier desktops that are more for supporting more Teams offloading. Also, these devices will have a bit more USB peripheral support. So any healthcare customers that are hanging out there tends to be a good box in that space. But just general rule of thumb for anything at Lenovo that ends in a 0 is Intel. Anything that ends in a 5 is AMD. So we will have both Intel and AMD platforms that will be certified. So depending on if there's preference there or not, you'll see both of those options on the laptops as well. So laptop 14-inch form factor, about a 3-pound device. That generally is the sweet spot. Anything above that, we start getting feedback from users of, hey, it's getting a little heavy. But also too, it's not going to be kind of an education style device where it's going to be the thinnest, the lightest, the cheapest thing that you can get, and is not going to handle a little bit of stress, right? This is a ThinkPad certified device. It's supported globally. It's supported through a traditional warranty. So as Mike mentioned, as we see use cases start to scale more, where we're starting to see heavier processors and more memory being added to the configuration, it just makes sense for us to kind of leverage this device as a catch-all to where you'll be getting a sweet spot of many things without breaking the bank, and sending you over $1,000 on that price point. And the last thing too, that I do want to touch on here on this particular slide, it is unique to the Lenovo portfolio. So for those of you who have not seen it, is the tiny in one monitor. We do get a lot of questions about all-in-one form factor. We get a lot of questions about single compute support and not having so many different part numbers in the environment. And so what this is a modular all-in-one. So if you can see here, the tiny, any of those form factors that are to the left are sliding into the back of the monitor. Think of it as a mini docking station that's in the back, where it's connecting via DisplayPort power, as well as USB for the webcam that's hanging there on top. So the benefits of this are a couple different things. Number one, still only single compute management from a part number perspective. So whether you're sliding into the back of the monitor, whether you are putting it under a desk, or whether it's just sitting on top of the desk, you will still only manage one compute, since the Tiny-in-One is just a monitor. Also, too, cable management. If you see a lot of deployments with nuts, bolts, Velcro, zip ties, I've seen people saw into desks to try to hide wires. This is a great solution for that as well. So if you look on the far right, on the back of that monitor, there's a little hatch. That hatch actually opens up. So when it connects to those ports, you'll still have access to your additional ports, right? So if you need to put in scanners, credit card readers, etc., you'll still have access to your additional USB ports. If you need to put peripherals, if it needs to be a dual monitor or 3 monitor setup, you still have the ability to do that. But when you close that hatch, those cables will run down through the bottom. There's an opening, and it will run down the back side of the monitor stand. So no more zip ties, nuts, bolts, no more taking 10 to 15 minutes to deploy a machine because you're having to worry about a Visa mount on the back of the monitor. All of that goes away. But if you were hanging these on a monitor stand, or if you were putting them on a swing arm, like in a healthcare procedure room, there is a Visa mount that if you pop that stand off of the back, there's a little release switch. You'll have access to a Visa mount where you can hang that on an arm. So very versatile machine. It is fully certified by IGEL as well. So the webcam works, the soundbar works, as well as the monitor, but it's a nice, clean, easy solution that will take all the dongling of the webcam and the sound bars out of the equation, and it's aesthetically just nice and pretty. So as I mentioned too, there are also additional form factors that aren't listed. I think that if there are use cases where you need dedicated GPU, or you need something a little bit more robust, bigger size screen, we have some other devices that are certified, but like I said, this should be kind of the primary that will catch 95% of what we're seeing out there today.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is just, with the OEM announcement that Mike referenced earlier, is it's going to simplify a lot of different elements that go into, the IGEL and Lenovo solution. I think, up until this point, we've certified devices, right? Take that off your plate just to make sure that they work. But what we're doing is we're increasing the relationship by now embedding the license into the configuration. So what this does is a couple different things. Number one, it still allows you to have the same license with the same support structure, with the same terms, whether it's 1 or 3 year. But we have had a lot of our customer subset come back and request it to be bundled in, right? So that it looks similar to Dell or HP or some of the competitors, the way that they are displaying that price point, right? So I think that what you'll see is a unique workflow that's built into IGEL to activate the bundle of the licensing. But what it will allow too is the streamline of the activation, so that it automates pulling the licenses into the management console. Today, when you're buying IGEL, you're buying it as a one-off. You are buying the license separately from the hardware, and you're going and entering in a product key code to activate those licenses into your management console. So today, the way that we have it set up with the unique workflow is that when you receive a device that has a license that is bundled into the configuration, you will now have the ability to select this button down here that's highlighted in the box that says activate hardware bundle license purchases. So when you click that button, it will automatically pull in the licenses that are attached to the Lenovo devices, and it will bring those into the management console. So one less step of having to go in and enter in a key code. But also too, if you think about, pushing this solution out at a worldwide level, if you're putting it on catalogs, if you're putting it on contracts, if you're having different users throughout the world that are deploying these, it really simplifies the ability to do something like that and removes the need to have the asterisk to include the license with the hardware. So we'll still be able to provide a standalone for repurposing existing equipment. We'll still be able to provide a hardware device that has IGEL preloaded without the license, so that if you're doing a device transfer, and now we will have the ability to embed a license so that if it's a net new employee starting with a net new device, you have the ability to have the option of that being included as a single SKU today moving forward as well. So this is something that we're really excited about. This is something that is unique to Lenovo today, but also this is something that should hopefully kind of take one piece off of your plate to where you can just deploy and deploy those assets very quickly without having to take that extra step.
Mm-hmm. We had one question come in regarding the OS on the pre-build, if it's OS 12 or OS 11. So I can answer that. So there's two different types. There's obviously there's kind of having IGEL preloaded at the factory, but there's also having IGEL preloaded and pre-licensed at the factory. So I'm going to go with the OEM version, which is the pre-license as well, where now it's a single SKU. Hardware and software is a single SKU option to go forwards. That right now is OS 11 because it's in this generation of devices. Next generation, Gen 5, which comes out in a few months, really this late in the year, we'll have OS 12 on that one. But you can also have the IGEL just preloaded at the factory with kind of relevant kind of certified devices or side-loaded, where you do have the option to choose. But Spencer can elaborate on that as well, because there are options.
Yeah, and I think too, there's some automation built in. I think it's 11.08.240 and above, to where as long as that release or above is applied to the machine, then there is auto roll up to 12 that can be configured into that, right? So if the device ships and it joins the network and has the configuration within the UMS to update all configurations to the corporate standard, essentially that can roll up to 12 automatically within that OS 11 release. So as Mike said, we'll release OS 11 as the pre-configured models today. Once we get up to 12 on the release of the next generation of product, if you still are on 11, you can still have it customized to where it will roll back to 11, even though we're shipping 12. So that way, since that automation piece is built in, it doesn't require you to have a conversation with our imaging technology center every time you want to go from 12.3 up to 12.4, right? That automation will be built in within UMS as long as we're sending out 11.08.240 and above. So does that help answer the question for who asked that?
I think it's just to clarify, it's basically for the preload OEM, there's a default, but you can obviously you can choose. Work with the Lenovo team and stuff can be updated too. There are a few questions popping up. I believe there's a Q&A as well, which I cannot see.
I will take over if you like. So
brilliant,
Robert asked a couple of questions. We use Nutanix Desion Frame. I've tested with an i3 processor, which is not good enough. We run Revit and AutoCAD. Frame is a browser-based, and I would use discrete GPU. Can I just use a GPU if available?
I see. Can we offload to the local GPU? Is that the question? If it's required,
I'm more expecting that it's for the Nutanix Desion Frame session itself.
Got it.
But in general, if the GPU is supported from the IGEL OS, you can use it, and the GPU will be used if available. It all depends how the hardware gets certified by IGEL, but the typical built-in GPUs from Intel are usually supported, and if not, just drop us a message on the IGEL community, and we'll be happy to support you to check if the GPU is maybe in the pre-check phase and can be used in an IGEL OS base version, which will be delivered soonish.
Yeah. This is Ron. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can. Hello, Ron.
Yeah, I worked with the Frame team, on the custom partition for Frame. It works on 11 and 12. I believe if you've got the NVIDIA GPU in there and you've configured it to leverage that should be good to go. But I would check with your frame SE as well to confirm. But it should work. It should work. Yes.
We've got a
That's it
question
from
here
the
as well
Q&A.
on the docking station as well. Is there a recommended docking station for the L14? Spence, I'll throw
Yes,
that out.
the certified docking station today for all laptops is the USB-C docking station. So that is what has been tested and what has been certified. I will say too that you know, at Lenovo, I mean, I think docking in Linux is certainly a tricky situation across the board. One of the other things that I would recommend as well that we see a lot of customers take advantage of is we do have some like USB-C power delivery monitors that act as sort of you know, kind of a docking station replacement. That way you're not having to manage some of the firmware updates to a dock like you would to that monitor. So we have seen alternatives where if customers are looking at deploying deploying docking stations in conjunction with a net new rollout of laptop, looking at that direction as well. But if you are looking for a docking station specifically, then the USB-C docking station is what we have certified today.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Any other from the Q&A that I don't have visibility to?
There is one additional. Let me check from Markus Kachel. Will there be more firmware support on LVFS? I saw some Lenovo docking station there, but for example, the hybrid dock with display link technology is not supported according to the site.
The hybrid dock is not supported by LVFS or is not supported by IGEL?
Not supported by LVFS. I get that's the question. Marcus, just double check if we are right and just write me a PM, but I'm expecting it was more meant for LVFS.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time, Sebastian?
Sure. The question was more related to LVFS, in my opinion. So
LVFS.
the hybrid docking station is supported by the LVFS.
Let me double check. I mean, I don't think so because most docking stations are going to be built around Windows to push out those updates. So let me ask that question offline to our Linux team, who's responsible for passing over those updates to the LVFS tool, and just see if there can be a bit more explanation around that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Good question.
The other item in the docking stuff, I posted a link in there on the Lenovo docking stations that are supported by IGEL OS. So check that link out. The ThinkPad USB-C hybrid dock, the IO box, and Lenovo Universal USB-C dock.
I also wanted to, as you can see on the slide, just emphasize that you should all be going to IGEL Disrupt in Miami this year, if you're able. There's going to be a lot of great content, and I know Lenovo is going to be doing a lot of sessions around that and talking about some really cool upcoming technology that is very exciting. So click the QR code there as well, but make sure that that's on your calendar and you're going to go. Any other questions? I think we're almost at times. This is good. I've enjoyed this.
We have one from Robert. Where
Another
can
one.
we get a
Perfect,
list? Where can we get a list of the IGEL ready laptops that have GPUs and i7s?
I would say that for laptops, I mean, that is a very unique request, right? I think, you know, we have a P3 tower or a P3 tiny workstation class device that's a desktop that has a dedicated NVIDIA GPU that we have certified today. But when it comes to laptop, that's something where we would have to go out and pull a workstation class device to have that certified. As you can imagine, once you get a dedicated GPU, that's going to put you in that probably, you know, close to $1,000 plus price point. So it'd come from our workstation class device. But I would say that, you know, the L14, right, or L15, which is a 15-inch version that we also have certified, those will take up to i7, right, or Ryzen 7. So those are PCs that will take full performance Intel is moving away from i3, so they will not have an i3 offering for notebook, but AMD will. So a lot of times we see, customers go with like Ryzen 3 and above. But if you want to scale up Ryzen 5, i5, i7, Ryzen 7, it does not matter, right? We make an i9, chipset as well. So you can scale up the stack as much as you want, but when it comes to a dedicated GPU on a laptop, we can get you a test unit to kind of go through some self-certification, but for us, we'd have to go through the cycles on that to get that certified. To be honest, I haven't had one request come across for the notebook, and I've had, a handful come across for the desktop. But we can test it.
Brilliant.
And I would say that's it until now. Let me check the last message now, Stuart. You will not get a free device.
That is a wrap. Yeah. Yeah. Worth
Which
this one.
is good.
Worth it. You try, buddy.
Yeah. You've been banned. You've been cut off.
Sometimes we are getting
My wife's banned me from lots of things. She'll keep there.
On the NVIDIA graphics card, I pasted a link from the knowledge base. It talks about the settings to do to make sure that the NVIDIA is being utilized. So take a look at that link as well. Yeah.
The link master himself. Thank you, Ryan. He's off. He's off just adding value.
I'm adding something. Well, as my mom said, I'm making gravy without the lumps.
Oh, this is very good.
Yeah.
What a wonderful saying. Perfect. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you all. Thank you, Spencer, for your partnership as well as insights on today's call. And I thank you for providing me the opportunity to talk to everyone. And we're always around to answer any additional questions if should they come up.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks,
then
everyone.
Everybody, enjoy your week, and see you next time in the next meetup. Bye.
See you next time.
See you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.